Could corrosion on the Fireball ride at the Ohio State Fair have been prevented, detected, and then fixed? The ride manufacturer says excessive corrosion is to blame for the accident that killed a high school senior and injured 7 others. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Colleen Marshall.
And I'm Mike Jackson. Our cameras went behind the scenes at Battelle tonight to learn more about the science behind corrosion. It was a chance for us to hopefully get some answers nearly 2 weeks since the tragedy at the Midway.
NBC4's Katie Ferrell is joining us now in the studio tonight. And Katie, I know you learned corrosion. It's easy to prevent, but it might be a little bit more difficult to detect.
Absolutely, absolutely right, Colleen. Today, Battelle took me inside what they call their failure analysis lab, where it tests parts for planes, pipelines, even nuclear power plants. And they showed me corrosion is really easy to detect if you know where to look.
Behind these doors is where Battelle, a global research and development organization, literally breaks stuff to learn how to make things like metals stronger. What makes them weaker is corrosion.
Corrosion occurs in all metals all the time, and it is a huge problem in all industries.
Battelle research leader Rick Olson says for a couple $100, you can get an ultrasonic thickness tool to check for corrosion and measure metal thickness. The problem is it can only take a dime-sized measurement at a time.
Imagine you've got 10,000 square feet of material to examine. How do you know where to look? You just don't know where to look.
Olson says corrosion is simply rust, caused by being out in the elements, exposed to rain and salt.
Everything that is metal is subject to corrosion. That's why we put paint on your cars.
While the Fireball ride looked good from the outside, without using an ultrasonic tool, he says it's impossible to know what was going on inside unless you cut it open. Is it surprising that it wasn't detected?
It is not the least bit surprising that it wasn't detected. It's not obvious, and particularly if you have a structure where it's closed in.
Nothing lasts forever.
It gets thinner and thinner with every passing year, unless you do something.
And we have learned that a third-party inspector, Soil Consultants Incorporated, I want to get the documents here, they actually performed an ultrasonic examination of the Fireball in October of 2016, and according to its report, it inspected the ride's 24 gondola arm pins for defects and found no defective pins. The question remains still, was this ultrasonic exam thorough enough? And that is something we are working to answer for you tomorrow. Still a lot of questions, and I wanted to show you guys. This is something Battelle gave me, a little souvenir to come home with. This was outside for 5 years, and this is a perfect example of what the elements can do to a piece of steel. Wow. Absolutely corroded, about half the size as it started out, he said.
Yeah, no wear and tear, Katie. It was simply exposure that did this.
Simply exposure to rain, sun, wind, salt.
So that ultrasonic machine they would have to go around a dime-sized piece at a time around the surface?
Exactly, and that's why he says it doesn't get done as often in all walks of life. Cars, planes, he says on average, he thinks the average plane probably gets it done once a year.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Katie.